Welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Long. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I was doing well. I probably cut it out because I don't want the audience staff to hear it, but Charlie just serenaded me.
Yeah, well, there is a reason I sang that song, and it's because my show is set in the Old West about cowboys. It's about cowboys and cowboy-adjacent characters. Yeah.
Adjacent characters?
It's a Western horror show. Yeah.
Western horror show.
Yeah. Because one of my favorite horror movies of all time is Bone Tomahawk. Have you seen Bone Tomahawk?
No, I have not.
It is a Western horror movie that's got a whole bunch of fun actors in it. Like Kurt Russell's in it, and that guy who's in a bunch of stuff, but nobody knows his name. He's in the Conjuring movies. He's in it. Courtney Cox's husband is in it. It's full of a whole bunch of character actors that are really good, and it's a really cool movie. It's very gory and fucked up, but only in like the last third. The first 2/3 are pretty like regular, tame.
Oh,
Western.
So very Tarantino.
Yeah, but then the last third is like, whoa, this is crazy. Guy gets chopped in half, and not in the direction that you would think. Yeah. Don't like that, do you? Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means. Oh, like, straight down?
Yeah, straight, like, they flip him upside down so his legs are up in the air, and then they take a big rock and they chop him straight down the middle. Straight through.
Take a big rock and do that?
Yeah.
That sounds horrendous.
Like a big sharp rock. Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, but it's also really good. It's a really well-made movie. So I would highly recommend watching Bone Tomahawk, but I've also been playing Red Dead Redemption 2, the second one.
So you're in a bit of a Western mood.
I am. I'm in a bit of a Western mood, and I was like, well, I want to make something that's a little spooky. It's a little scary, but it's also a little bit of cowboy adventure time, And so I decided.
Want to grab your friends.
Yeah. Exactly. There's so many new friends in this show that I've made. Yeah. And it's a bit similar to the show that you pitched last week. So I
Really?
Yeah.
So they're gonna be eating people?
No, not. It's similar in some ways and very, very different in others. Similar in that there's a whole cast of characters, kooky characters that we're gonna talk about today.
I have a funny little idea that I want to put. You know how we normally cast our people after?
Yeah.
We don't actually do this, but I want you to do it right now before with no context for me or you. So I guess you know, but I have no idea. The audience has no idea.
Yeah.
So who do you think you're gonna play in this? And
who am I gonna play? I think I'm gonna play Whitaker.
Whitaker. Okay.
Whitaker. And I think that you could play that is to say, if I gave myself a named role.
These aren't main characters, are they?
There are 5 main characters, and so I'll cast you as another one of the main characters. That would be Sheriff.
Oh no, I was saying just throw us as random side
characters. Okay, that's fine. Then you're gonna
I'll just be waiting to hear about later.
All right, Jake, you're gonna be the guy who gets seduced.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be the guy who makes a really big error and kills someone that didn't need to be killed.
Okay.
All right.
I'm very excited to figure out who these people are.
All right. So this Western horror show, will be taking place in the town of Hollow. And it'll follow a body snatcher that has invaded this small town, and the townsfolk must find it and kill it. And so we're doing a whole bunch. It's a body snatcher situation, so there's going to be paranoia. It's going to be very reminiscent of The Thing. Right? John Carpenter's The Thing. There's going to be paranoia, and nobody's going to know, is this the guy? Is this not the guy? Is there a monster? What's going on? Right? So that's our setup. Western town, body snatcher. Now I'm going to introduce you to our characters, our lovely cast of characters. So we have Sheriff Holcomb, who's a grizzled, honorable man who cares for the town. He's kind of your standard Western protagonist. He wears a white hat, right? He's a sheriff guy. He's kind of older, but he's still a badass. He's got a 6-shooter, that sort of thing. And then we have Winston Hunt, who's a morally gray to he's a kind of a bad guy, but he's a bounty hunter. So he's a bad guy who works on the side of the law. And he's currently transporting a serial killer to the local city of Hargrove. And he often...
Like Hargrove Institute.
Yeah, well, maybe they're connected in some way. Maybe not. Maybe I just couldn't... Maybe I just couldn't think of a name.
It's the past.
Maybe they just take place...
You never pretend like you said it twice, Charlie. You always pretend it's, like, connected.
I mean, I'm assuming that they're in the same universe, but they're, they're not really connected.
It's the past.
Yeah, it's way in the past. And Winston is, like, often... Winston Hunt is he's a bounty hunter, and he's kind of usually, not always, but usually worse than the people that he's bringing in. He's a bad man, but he has the ability to stay on the right side of the law, so he gets away with it, mostly. And then our serial killer that Winston is transporting is Melissa Harrigan. She's a black widow who has killed 5 of her husbands, a true blue sociopath who likes murder and killing, and she has no empathy or no ability to relate to other people. She's a lunatic. That's why I say
same.
That's why I said Winston is usually worse than the people he's bringing in. He's not worse than Melissa. He's close, but he's not worse than her. She's a bad egg. And then on the exact opposite spectrum, opposite side of the spectrum, is Sister Maria D'Souza. Not D'Souza, D'Souza.
Is she supposed to be French?
Yes, but she's a former drunk turned nun who has devoted herself to Christ and the downtrodden of the town of Hollow. So she's,
just like you.
Just like me. I'm a nun at heart. And she's, she is very, very religious, and she doesn't like anything that's, any sort of superstition, mystic stuff she is against, because, it goes against the word of Christ. And that is in direct opposition to our final main character, Whitaker, a singular named hermit, mystic, and herbalist who lives in the wilderness and only comes into town when he needs supplies. Alright, so those are our 5 main characters, and they're going to be playing various roles throughout the show, right?
Okay.
So just I'll tell you a little story. Tell you a little story about Hunt. On episode 1, he's walking into town. The town of Hollow. Night is descending as he enters the saloon, dragging a bound and gagged woman by a leash. So she's got, chains around her feet and her hands, and she's got a gag, and he's got a chain leash around her neck, and he's just dragging her in. And he's acting like it's the most normal thing in the world. And these people who he's meeting for the first time have no idea who this woman is. And so they just see this armed lunatic dragging a woman. And they send the local boy to go get the sheriff. And Sheriff, what's his fucking name? Holcomb. Sheriff Holcomb shows up, and he's not real happy about this. And Hunt shows the wanted poster, and he buys a room for the night. And Holcomb, he's not happy that there's a serial killer in his midst, or this morally ambiguous bounty hunter, but he's like, well, I can't not have you, and it would be, cruel and unusual for me to send you out into the darkness right now, right? Like, it's the middle of the night, you'll get eaten by coyotes. So you can have the night, or it's not the middle of the night, it's the beginning of the night. The whole show happens over one night. So, he gets a room, Hunt gets a room, and he goes up and he locks Melissa up. Like, she is fully bound and gagged inside the room. She's not going anywhere. She's chained to the radiator, let's just say. And he goes downstairs. He's left this woman up in his room, just chained up, and she's like wailing, but she's bound and gagged, so she can't really wail too loud. And Sheriff Holcomb, still not feeling very, very confident in Hunt, decides that he's going to stay up with him and swap a few stories, try and get a beat on this guy. So they're out there, they're having whiskey, as most cowboys do. There's going to be a lot
whiskey and cigars.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of sitting, drinking hard liquor, and talking in this show. That's what most of the characters do when there's nothing to do. And so they're talking, it's very normal, when all of a sudden the electricity in the town goes out, right? All the lights that illuminated the whole town, they went out. The street lamps out, everything. And so they go, sheriff says, like, Hunt, come with me, we're gonna go investigate. And so they go to the circuit breaker. They don't really have circuit breakers in cowboy times, did they? Just like they have a big thing. They have a big thing where the electricity is sent to them from a plant, right? And they're investigating. They find that it hasn't, Sheriff Holcomb was just assuming that it was some sort of gore or some sort of accident, right? Maybe a bird flew into it or something. But these lines have been cut, ripped apart, torn apart by what looks like teeth. Like an animal ripped these apart, but why would an animal rip apart electrical wiring? And also, how is it not dead? And then they, begin looking around to see if maybe they can find some tracks, and they find this pile of gore, right?
Oh.
Just viscera. No, it looks like...
It's like human?
It looks like something has been skinned, but there's no skin around. It's just the innards. It's just the guts and the blood and the muscle and everything.
Muscle and stuff.
Yeah. And then
Can you tell what it is, or is it just a bunch of crap? You don't know if it's an animal or a person or what.
Well, Holcomb is kind of like, ugh, that's fucking gross. But Hunt just gets in there. Like, he just gets in with his bare hands, begins looking, and he finds a dog collar. Daisy. It's the dog. Daisy. And Holcomb is like, oh god, that was Miss Wilkins' dog. Oh, she's gonna be heartbroken about this. This is such a... Oh man, something must have got to him. Some sort of dog or coyote or something must have eaten Daisy. And then Hunt explains, like, what kind of dog or coyote or whatever does this? And it's just because it's not like this has been eaten. There's nothing missing except for the skin. Everything is still there, like all the guts and the blood and the heart, everything. And I was like, well, obviously... It had to have been an animal, I don't know nobody in town would do this, Everybody loved Daisy. She was the town dog. She'd go down to the saloon, everybody feed her pretzels and beer. Yeah. And so they're, Sheriff and Hunt walk back, and they're a little perplexed, but they're like, whatever. And Sheriff sends Hunt over to the saloon. He's like, get some sleep. Winston, you're out of town in the morning. I don't want this killer in my town for any longer than she has to be. So you go, you get some sleep, you keep your eye on her. I'm gonna go and give my confession. We find that Sheriff Holcomb is a deeply religious man. He's very religious. And so he goes up and he goes up to the church and he meets Sister D'Souza, and she's this, absolutely stunning woman, but all you can see is her face, and she's very sweet and very nice. And Holcomb asks to see the priest, Father Davies, let's say his name is. You can tell he's very important because I just made up his name right then. Father Davies. And D'Souza says, oh, he went to sleep, or he retired up to his room, but I'm sure he would want to see you. You're his the leader of his flock. He provides them spiritual protection. You provide them physical protection. I'm sure he would want to talk with you. And D'Souza walks up. Sheriff Holcomb's just chilling in the center, in the church. We'll have some nice shots of him, like, made very small in comparison to this enormous crucifix that's just in the church. When he hears this scream, this death rattle, and he runs up, he busts down the door, gets in, sees D'Souza, and she's like, covering her mouth, like tears rolling down her face, and he's like, what's wrong, what happened? And she points over at his room, at Father Davies' room, and Sheriff Holcomb pulls out his pistol, cocks it, busts into the room, as a cowboy sheriff does. He's got his gun, he's pointing it around, and he sees in Father Davies' bed just a pile of gore. Muscle and blood and veins and bone, but no skin. Puts his gun in the holster, turns around and comforts Sister D'Souza as he's got this worried look on his face, like something's happening. That's the end of episode 1. A lot happens in episode 1. We gotta set all sorts of stuff up.
Grimy, dirty episode.
Yeah. Oh, it only gets grimier, dirtier, and grosser. And maybe not grosser. So Sheriff Holcomb is like, okay, there's something wrong in this town. Something is happening. And so he wakes everyone up. Something's afoot. He wakes everyone up. All the people in the town. He gets up and he gathers them in the church. He and a few of the men like get rid of Father Davies' body, and they all gather in the church. There's no electricity, so everything is candle lit, right? And Davies is dead.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. And Sister D'Souza, she comforts the children while the sheriff, he gathers all of the adults in one room, and he, tells them that there's something going on. Something's killing people around this town and leaving no skin behind, but everything else. And we need to find it. We need to stop this and keep our town safe. And, as typical cowboys do, he sends all the women to spend time with the kids, right? In the main room of the church, while he and all the men put together a posse, right? And they're gonna go walking around the town looking for whatever's killed. And at this point, Hunt and Harrigan, they can't sleep. Obviously, there's so much going on. Hunt decides that, well, what's the harm in taking her gag off? And so, while the posse is searching around town, Hunt and Harrigan have the saloon to themselves, and they're just shooting back gin, throwing it back.
Does she no longer has like cuffs on?
No, she has cuffs on, but she's just like, he's like pouring it in her mouth, and
I guess you could drink with cuffs on,
Mm-hmm.
if you have the.
But he also, Hunt is smart enough to know that if he gives her the bottle, she'll break it and stab him in the neck, so he just pours it in her mouth. And they talk about their histories, and Hunt, they're
Give her a straw.
Yeah, exactly. Gives
I assume they had straws in cowboy
a
times.
plastic straw.
Yeah,
and Hunt,
a McDonald's plastic straw.
There you go. And they're talking about their histories, and Hunt kind of keeps himself a little reserved, but Harrigan, she is a serial killer. She's a sociopath. So she just loves talking about her husbands, all 5 of them, and how they all died, and how she did it different for each one so the police wouldn't catch on, right? It was a thing.
Yeah.
And then, it was because of her latest husband had a kid, and she was going to kill the kid too, but the kid, saw her slip the arsenic into Dad's porridge and didn't eat it, and the kid, ratted her out, right? So we're just babbling on, telling a little bit of history, right? A little bit of stories, and Hunt, maybe he talks about his childhood, right? Growing up in the big city of Philadelphia and how it was hard. You had to fight to survive. His mother and father both died or abandoned him. He doesn't even know. He grew up in an orphanage, right? But he's lived a hard life, and now he's a killer for hire, basically. And they both kind of figure out that they're very similar. They've had similar pasts, right? Melissa is also, she was an orphan, but they are also on the opposite sides of the law, even if they're both kind of equally as bad as one another. And we switch from that to the town has the posse has come back. Sheriff Holcomb is back in the church, and he's like loading up rifles. He's keeping an eye out for people. And the town comes back, and they've got something tied up over their shoulders, right? They got something tied up, and they throw it down, and they rip the bag off of his head, and it's Whitaker, this old hermit guy. He's crazy. And I named him Whitaker because I kind of imagined him being played by Forrest Whitaker, the actor. You know him.
Oh, okay.
But he's got like a big white beard and crazy white hair, and he's a herbalist. He's a mystic. He's like this weird hunter guy who lives out in the woods. And they were like, we found him prowling around the outside of the outskirts of the town. We think it's him. He's taking their skins. We always thought he was weird, but but now he's gone too far. He's taking people's skins. He killed Daisy. And then maybe we have like a reoccurring joke of Mrs. Winston being like, oh, Daisy. And she just like, she faints every time that Daisy's mentioned. We could have a little bit of levity. But, and Whitaker explains that he wasn't, he just got near town. He's been tracking something. He's been tracking it over the past few days. Something with tracks he's never seen before. Something strange. He's never seen an animal act like this. It's smart. It knows what it's doing, And just as he begins to, like, explain what the animal's doing, one of the hunting party just starts executing the people, right? He just starts, like, blasting people in the back of the head with his repeater.
Oh, shit.
And, as soon as that happens, pretty much everyone turns around and blasts him away, and this guy is just this mangled mess of bodies, of skin. And they find he's hollow. There's nothing in him.
Oh,
and they look at the
crap.
back and into the floorboards of the church, and there's this little hole that seemed to have been burned by acid down into the, underneath the church. Very strange. Something burned acid down the bottom, underneath the floorboards, and escaped under the church. And then that's the end of episode 2. Episode 3. We're going to start episode 3 out with Whitaker explaining the myth of the Navajo skinwalker, right? It's this monster that disguises itself as people. Basically kind of describing what's been happening. And I think we could do this with like a fun animated section at the beginning of the episode, Almost like a campfire story. But it's... And we can cut to the whole town listening to him as he tells this tale, and maybe we could do some of that classic stuff that people did in the Old West, where he like throws powder into the campfire, and like smoke comes out, and you see the things playing in the smoke, right? And we see this creature. So he explains the Navajo skinwalker is this monster that steals people's skins and walks around and pretends to be them until they're, until it's able to strike and gain, victims and kill people, right? But he's never heard of this acid stuff, like this weird, stuff that it baffles him. He's like, I've heard many myths of the skinwalker, but none of them ever mentioned any sort of acid. And maybe Sheriff Holcomb is like, well, maybe the people who saw the acid never lived to tell the tale. And he cocks his gun. And then, as he says that, Sister D'Souza comes up and is like, no, it's not a skinwalker. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. It's obviously a demon taking human form. Because she's very religious. She doesn't believe in Navajo myths. She believes in cold, hard facts found in the Bible. That is to say, demons. That come up here, steal people's skin, and, incite chaos in towns like this, trying to lead people away from the truth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And, this goes on, and basically people, get on two sides of it, right? It's a skinwalker, it's a demon, it's a skinwalker, it's a demon, and, like, fighting begins to happen. People got into fights for all sorts of reasons back in the day. So, people are getting into a little physical, and that's when Sheriff fires a round into the air, And he does this big speech, like, we can't be tearing ourselves apart. Doesn't matter if it's a skinwalker or a demon. He reasons that it ran away. So that means we can do something to it, right? If it was this invulnerable monster that we couldn't hurt, it wouldn't run away. It had just killed all of us right here and now. But it's...
scared.
Exactly, it's scared. We can scare it, and that means we can kill it. And so he, like, gets together a plan, right? And at this point, Hunt and Harrigan, like, wander into the church. They hear all the commotion, they hear the gunshot, they're like, what? They heard the gunshots, they're like, what's going on? So, Harrigan and Hunt show up, and as Sheriff Holcomb is being like, oh my god, I didn't realize how many people I had with H's in their names. That's not on purpose. I was just trying to think of cowboy-y names. But Holcomb, like, organizes everyone. He sends all of the women and the children downstairs into the basement. That's a tornado bunker, right? So it's steel. Nothing's getting in or out of there, right? And he sets up barricades. He gets the men on watch, and then it leaves with only 2 women being above ground, right? Everyone else is below ground. And that is Harrigan, and because Hunt won't let her out of his sight, and he also knows she's dangerous. Don't put her underground with women and children. She will escape, and she will kill all of them, because she's a fucking lunatic. And he's kind of got this, like, fear of her, and the rest of the, Holcomb tries to get out what's wrong. Like, she's only killed 5 men. She's a Black Widow. She's dangerous, but she's not like a monster. She's not gonna slaughter everyone. But Hunt just kind of keeps it to himself. He's like, just trust me. You don't want her down there with them. And D'Souza, who is like, I'm not, abandoning my church. I'm not going to run and hide when my church needs protecting. Now that Father Davies is dead, we are the only people, I am the only representative of the Lord here, and I will not, leave my church undefended. Whatever. And this episode is just kind of like a setting up episode. So it ends with them constructing this perimeter and having Hunt and Holcomb and Whitaker and D'Souza and Harrigan. They're all sitting, outside around a campfire, keeping watch. There's a bunch of other dudes just wandering around. And it ends with Whitaker just, he's got a rabbit, and he's cooking the rabbit, and he's telling stories about, about the Old West and stuff, right? And that's end of episode 3. You have any questions so far? Any predictions?
I'm thinking this serial killer lady's gonna get free at some point.
Well, let's see. So, we cut to episode 4. It starts with we see this creature. We can't really tell what it is, but it's something hidden by darkness, and we just see it, like, the silhouette of it, illuminated in the moonlight, just watching the church. And then we, see all the men with guns, and they're standing out there with torches, and they're going to keep their wives and their kids and their town safe. And Whitaker ensures them that a skinwalker would be gone by the morning. They can't withstand the sunlight or something like that. And so they're all, all the people who believe it's a skinwalker, they're happy to wait till morning. And all the people who believe it's a demon believe that they'll be able to, they can leave the town in the morning, right? But they can't go out now. It's the middle of the night. Everything's too dark, right? What are they gonna do? Go out alone to the place? Where do you keep horses? Barn. Stable. Are they gonna go to the stable and get stuff? That's ridiculous. And so they're just walking around, protecting each other, and then we hear an argument, set up. There's a little bit of back and forth, right? And then a gunshot. Bang. Oh no. No, it was me, actually. I shot him.
Shit.
You get seduced. I shoot him.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, so we run over. The sheriff runs over. Sheriff and Hunt run over, and they see that one of the deputies has shot the bartender dead. And he was like, he was the creature. I know he was. He was the beast. He's been acting weird all day. I don't know what he was, but he was a creature. He was a beast, and I killed him. And then, all of a sudden, Holcomb just hits him right in the nose, knocks him to the ground, puts him in handcuffs, and has him taken away. And it's like, he's got guts and blood and bones. Obviously he wasn't the creature. He's not hollow. Everything else we found that the creature's inhabited has been hollow. Yeah, and then they lock him up, and that kind of sparks a little bit of a fight, right? because some people are like, we need to, have every able-bodied man out, and other people are like, we need to kill that deputy. He just shot the saloon worker. He just shot the bartender in cold blood, whatever. He'd always been good to us. That deputy'd always had it in for that bartender. Yeah.
He slept with his wife.
Exactly. And that's when, again, Sheriff Holcomb fires a round out into the air, and he gets all the men's attention, and he delivers this rousing speech, right? He talks to them about how they need to stay together, and only through, like, cooperation and brotherhood are they going to be able to beat this creature, whatever, all this stuff. And as soon as he finishes the speech, all the lanterns go out at once, like a light switch, and we just hear ripping and tearing and gore noises, and we see a few gunshots, and that's the only thing that illuminates the scene, and maybe we catch a glimpse of this creature, but it's never shown. And the only, they get the things out, right? The only light that shows up is when Hunt lights a flare, and he sees, he holds it up, and he just sees, like, men, like piles and piles of bodies that are just dead, just ripped to shreds. None of their skins have been taken. They're just, like, disemboweled, and their faces have been ripped off and, decapitated. And Hunt, Holcomb, and just, like, 2 or 3 other people are still standing, and Whitaker and D'Souza, right? The main characters are still standing, and then there's maybe like 2 or 3 people. And now your character shows up, because we cut to the
Hey.
we cut from that to Harrigan. She's inside, right? And she's talking with one of the men who's staying watch inside the church, and he's nervous. He's probably like, 19, right? He's never had a woman before, and this lady, she seems real pretty and real nice, and she explains that bounty poster that you saw, that wasn't real. Hunt's a lunatic. He's just been keeping me captive, right? If you let me go, I'll show you a good time, let me go and you'll be my Prince Charming. What happens for Prince Charmings, right? All that sort of stuff. We'll write better dialogue for you to get seduced, but you
really
you get seduced. Well, we'll write better.
Charlie.
Okay, I'm coming up with that off the top of my head. All I have is Harrigan gets talked her way out of the restraints, right? And then she, slits the guy's throat and runs away, right? We don't see that, obviously, but it's assumed by the beginning of the next episode. And then we cut to Whitaker and D'Souza praying, right? And maybe they're praying to different gods, maybe they're praying to the same gods, but whatever. End of episode 4. Episode 5, Harrigan is loose. She's in the town somewhere, and Hunt knows that he's got to find her, right? And it's obvious to Holcomb that this is not just a job for him. This is he's doing this for a reason, right? And so, he finally, Holcomb is I can't let you go. You're one of the last, guns I got. We need to protect ourselves against this creature. And Hunt is just no, she's worse. She's a monster. She's a devil in woman's clothing, whatever. And Holcomb is why do you hate her so much? And Hunt finally explains, I had a party of 8 when we started looking for her. There were 8 of us that went to hunt her down. I'm the only one who survived. She's a monster. She'll tear this town apart. She'll burn the whole place down. I need to find her. And it's obvious that this is the people that she killed, the 7 other members of his bounty hunting party we're close to him. This is a revenge mission now. And so he goes out and he starts looking for her, right? And then we get Sister D'Souza and Sheriff Holcomb and Whitaker setting up this final barricade, right? Inside the church. They don't have enough people outside the church to like hold a barricade. They're setting it up inside the church, and this is the final like place that they're gonna stand. And D'Souza is confident that this creature is not gonna come in here because it is a demon and it cannot withstand the power of Christ. But Holcomb is less sure. And so he begins talking to Whitaker, and Whitaker explains that, I've never heard of a skinwalker being this tenacious, but I do know something that we could do might help, right? We need to perform a ritual, a spell that will banish this creature away from us. And Holcomb is like, why didn't you tell us before? And it's like, we need to kill, 6 goats and lay them out in a it's a very laborious spell. So it'll take a really long time, and they can't really do that if they're out in the darkness and there's this monster following them. And Sheriff Holcomb is like, he's deciding. He's like stroking his chin, wondering, is he gonna do this? And then we cut to Harrigan and Hunt find each other. And Harrigan, she's escaped. She's got kind of a crazed look in her eye. She's like all riled up. She's covered in blood because of the man that she killed inside the church, right? And they both got knives. And this is a very climactic final showdown between the two of them. And it's like a nice knife fight. They're both kind of evenly matched. She's got a bit more skill. He's stronger. She's faster. That sort of thing. And they get each other. He stabs her in the heart. She stabs him in the neck. Right. Like, it is at the same time. They both get fatal blows on one another. And it ends with them falling to the ground, each still gripping the knife that's inside of the other, just bleeding to death as they hold eye contact with one another. Just, and that's we cut away, right? And we've cut back to Harrigan, or not Harrigan, she's dead. We cut back to Holcomb and Whitaker, and they are like going out. They've got Holcomb's got a shotgun and 2 revolvers. He's armed to the teeth, and he's going to protect Whitaker as Whitaker helps perform the spell, right? And so they do the spell, right? It's very scary because there's there's a dog, it's coming at us. Holcomb shoots it. Turns out it's just a regular dog. They do the spell. It's a whole thing. And they begin to walk back to the church. And then we cut back to the church, and D'Souza, she's sitting there. And she's praying, she's hoping for Whitaker and Holcomb's, safe return, let Mr. Hunt come back safe, and as she says it, Hunt walks back into the room. Completely fine. He's not injured at all, for some reason. End of episode 5.
Oh, is he?
So, Whitaker, Sheriff, Holcomb, Sister D'Souza, and Winston Hunt stand ready to defend the church. Holcomb and Whitaker, they did the spell, but Holcomb's still not ready to believe that it's over yet, right? Like, he's ready. And, he's getting ready. He's got his rifle ready. And he's standing in front of the church, and he's got Hunt with him. And Hunt is, he's acting a little weird, but Hunt's been weird this whole time. So... Hunt is he's a little creepy, he's a little weird. Whitaker comes out and he meets them, and Whitaker, he smells something. It's weird. And as soon as he does that, Hunt shoots him in the back of the head. Right? And he's got no. And he's got another round loaded up, but before he's able to aim it at Winston, he blows his brains out. Right?
Hunt blows his own?
No, when Holcomb blows Hunt's brains out, right? He's okay. Finally. And he puts his gun back in his holster, and he wipes his chin. He's like, finally, this thing's dead. There's the only 2 people alive left in this town that aren't women and children are me and D'Souza. And she's fine. I just saw her. She's fine. So he walks back and I know I'm fine. He walks back into the church, and he sits down at the steeple, and on his knees.
Oh, that would hurt.
He gets him.
Sits down on the steeple?
On the steeple.
I mean, I would go straight up.
Okay.
That wouldn't be good.
I couldn't remember the word. I'm sorry, Pew.
Well, the pew.
Yeah, he gets on his knees and he just starts praying. He's just like praying, thanking God for letting him live through this and letting him keep. He didn't keep the whole town safe, but he was able to keep the innocents safe, right? And as he like looks up at the cross and tears well up in his eyes because he's happy that he was able to save some people, D'Souza sticks a knife in his neck. Oh no. Turns out, at the end of episode 5, when Hunt came into the church with D'Souza was the only one there, the creature, whatever it is, was able to split off. A second, organism was able to split off and take over D'Souza's body. So she reaches over and she reabsorbs the, part of her that she left in Hunt. And she, explains to Whitaker, or Holcomb, as he's dying, he's bleeding to death. And all he can do is look up at the cross and look over at D'Souza and just like tears rolling down his face and just listen to her as she explains, oh man, it was so much fun. This whole time, it was so much fun to watch you people kill each other. Just paranoia and lunacy madness took over this town. I just watched. Sure, I killed a few people, but hey, that's what I do, right? And she grabs a bag and she's like, all right, Sheriff, it's been fun, but I really have to get going. And she walks out of the church. And then Sheriff Holcomb just holds his neck and looks up at the cross. And he's, bleeding to death. And then she walks back in. Almost forgot. Oh man, I almost forgot this. And she lights the church on fire and opens up the door to the cellar. And as the burning church envelops all of the women and children that are downstairs, as well as the memory of the last people in the town, she walks away, not even looking, just with a big smile on her face, still in her nun garb, And then we cut to the morning has finally come. And she is walking down the road, and she's, tired, a little beleaguered. She's got, sweat dripping from her face, and a wagon train comes by. And she explains, she's just on a pilgrimage to the city of Hargrove. Would they mind giving her a ride? And then she hops in the back of the wagon train, and the whole process is just going to repeat itself again. Damn. Hollow.
What, I forgot, what happened to the serial killer lady?
Oh, she, died. She and Hunt killed each other in that final climactic knife fight, and the creature, stumbled upon their bodies.
Took over Hunt.
So, yeah. Everyone's dead.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a skinwalker. I was
trying to find. I forgot that she died. I was waiting for her to come back and kill the monster.
Nope. Nobody survives. It wasn't a skinwalker or a demon. What do you think it was? What's your opinion? What kind of
something you made up?
It's an alien. In my mind, it's an alien, but it's never going to be explained by the show. It's just some horrible monster creature that fell out of the sky and just likes killing things. I think taking people's memories.
It might be nice if, because I feel like it talking to him at the end kind of gets rid of its scary factor just a little bit.
Fair enough.
And if it just doesn't talk and it just does those things, it kills him, lights the church on fire, walks away, and the only time it talks is in the nun's voice to the wagon train.
Yeah. I think you're right.
That'd be a little scarier.
You're right. That was my final, flourish. I was like, should I make it talk or should I just make it be silent? And I think you're right. Now that I've told the story, I think it should just be silent the whole time. Maybe it shouldn't even talk at the wagon train. Maybe it's just like the wagon train pulls up and they're like, oh, miss, we can't have a sister walking all by her lonesome, just hopping back.
That could be one of the tells for it, that it can't talk.
Yeah,
that would be good.
That would be good.
can't speak.
Yeah, maybe that's
Because it's wearing the skin, it's dead. It doesn't have it doesn't have like the lungs and
vocal cords and
vocal
stuff.
cords to speak.
It doesn't even have teeth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just entirely silent. Yeah, that's good. I like that. But yeah, that's my show, Hollow.
Hello.
And that's it. That's
I
it.
now want to name the town.
That's what happened.
Hollow.
Nobody lived.
Which one?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was like, should it be Hollow or should it be something else? And I, on one hand, wanted the name to tie into more than just how the creature left its, skin suits. Because I should have mentioned this. Sheriff Holcomb is constantly making promises that he is constantly failing to keep. Hollow promises, and the town's hollow, and whatever. But if you think we could come up with a better name for the town, I'm all down.
I like the name for the show. Hollow is great.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you just keep this Hollow.
Maybe
I can't think of better. You need like a synonym.
Hollow's
but
Village.
That's good enough as
How's Hollow's Village?
Hollows.
Hallows Village.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hollowsville.
Hollowsville. Something. It's fine. Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
I liked it. Good show. I didn't see everyone dying as the thing.
Yeah.
Especially since last week you told me this wasn't gonna be sad.
Yeah, I changed my mind. I wanted it to be spooky and sad, and the ending be a nun burning down a church full of women and children. I think that's a very me ending.
I mean, you've set up quite the expectations for me next week, because we've gone Good Luck and Get Effed, which was sad.
Yeah.
They won it Raw, which was sad. And now Hollow, which was sad. Now we need very much need to have.
You're right. We need to do something that's at least cheery. Something for the kids, for the kiddies.
Oh, well, I might have a kid show next week. I haven't come up with the idea yet, but I think I'm going to do something, in the vein of sort of Pokemon, I want a show where I can sell a toy product.
Yeah, I think that has
cards
been
or something.
One of our major flaws is that we haven't really capitalized on any products. We don't have any toy sales. No.
See, I want a franchise that can make toys. I want to make plushies. I want to make video games.
Yeah.
I want it to be a big, a TV show, Saturday morning cartoon.
And see, nobody has bought my exclusive Jimmy King action figures, so those are just rotting.
No, they have not. You just have 400 of those in your closet. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I line them all up and pretend like they're doing a big battle, but they're all the same guy, so it doesn't really work very well.
It's a clone fight.
Mm-hmm. It's Attack of the Clones. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles Lung. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. And remember, we'll be here next week with a brand new televisual series for you to imagine and enjoy. Have a good one, folks.
Goodbye.